Okay, so once again, good day everyone. So for today, we're going to discuss about securing information system. No, security is the major concern of all businesses and even on our personal technology encountered. No, so after this module or chapter, you should be able to answer what makes an IS susceptible to misuse, mistake, and distraction. How valuable are security and control to businesses? What is a framework for corporate security and control? And which technologies and tools are most crucial for protecting information resources? So, system vulnerability and abuse is also a concern, no? So maybe we're asking what would happen if you attempted to connect to the internet without using antivirus or a firewall? In a matter of seconds, no, your computer would become inoperable and it would take you many days to get it back. So if you relied on the computer to operate your company, a breakdown may prevent you from selling to clients or placing orders with suppliers. Additionally, you can discover that strangers broke into your computer system and stole or destroyed sensitive data, including private payment information from your clients. So, your company may never be able to function if too much data is lost or leaked. In other words, if you run a firm today, security and control must be your top priorities because information systems are protected against illegal access, modifications, theft, and physical damage by rules, procedures, and technology safeguards. So to assure the security of companies' assets, the accuracy and dependability of its records and operational conformity to management standards, controls are technique, rules, and organizational processes. So to give us more details about the topic, let us all welcome our presenter.
Good morning, Dean. Good morning, classmates. I'm here to report about the securing information systems. So first, let us discuss about the system vulnerability and abuse. Next slide, please. So as mentioned by Dean, can you imagine what would happen if you tried to link to the internet without a firewall or antivirus software? So your computer would be disabled in few seconds and it might take you many days to recover. If you use the computer to run your business, you might not be able to sell your customers or place orders with your suppliers while it was down. And you might find that computer system had been penetrated by outsiders. So here are the two main important thing for the system. So first is the security. It refers to the policies, procedures, and technical measures used to prevent unauthorized access, alteration, theft, or physical damage to information systems. Next is the controls. These are the methods, policies, and organizational procedures that ensure the safety of the organization's assets, the accuracy and reliability of its records, and operational adherence to management standards. Next slide, please. So why systems are vulnerable? So when large amounts of data are stored in electronic form, they are vulnerable to many kinds of threats than they were existed in manual form. So through these communication networks, information systems in different locations are interconnected. So if we check this figure from the client, there are unauthorized access or errors. Then si hacker naman, gagawin niyo yung tapping, sniffing, message alteration, theft and fraud, and then radiation. And going to there, if the corporate servers, there will be hacking, malware, theft and fraud, vandalism, denial of attacks that will be discussed later on. And then, so after doing that by the hackers, there will be theft of data, copying data, alteration of data, hardware failure, and software failure. So pag naging successful yung pagiging vulnerable ng systems natin, lahat halos ng files natin or ng mga important documents na nakastore sa mga system natin, mabilis lang siyang magagrab ng mga fraudsters or ng mga intruders. So, ayun, kailangan talaga natin ng security and control for that. Next slide, please. So, internet vulnerabilities. So, large public networks, such as internet, are more vulnerable than internal networks because they are virtually open to anyone. The internet is so huge that when abuses do occur, they can enormously widespread impact. When the internet becomes part of the corporate network, the organization's information systems are more vulnerable to actions from outsiders. So these are the large public networks. So internet are more vulnerable na kasi they are open to anyone. So anyone can access. So mas maraming threats in using the internet. So we must be cautious and mas maging mas lalo nating anuhan yung control natin in terms sa paggamit ng internet. Next slide, please. So here are the wireless security challenges. Even the wireless network in your home is vulnerable because radio frequency bands are easy to scan. Both Bluetooth and Wi-Fi networks are susceptible to hacking by eavesdroppers. Local area networks or LANs using the 802.11 standard can be easily penetrated by outsiders armed with laptops, wireless cards, external antenna, and hacking software. Hackers use these tools to detect unprotected networks, monitor network traffic, and in some cases, gain access to the internet or to the corporate networks. So, it means wala talagang pinaka safe na network sa kahit man yung nasa bahay natin. So, some of the companies, we are using LAN networks para mas lalong maging secure yung mga system na ginagamit ng companies, especially if may mga kailangan tayong data na sensitive na hindi pwedeng makita ng iba. Next slide, please. So many Wi-Fi networks can be easily penetrated by intruders using sniffer programs to obtain an address to access to the resources of a network without authorization. So here, from the legitimate user, dun kumukuha si intruder ng mga from the Wi-Fi, dun kumukuha si intruder ng mga info para mag-grab niya yung mga important details or important na nakastore dun sa legitimate user. So, ayun nga, sobrang risky nito kasi nga pwede niyang gamitin sa mga harmful na bagay and pwede niyang i-spread yun without yung consent ng legitimate user. Next slide, please. So here are the malicious software, which are the viruses, worms, Trojan horses, and spyware. So dito sa malicious softwares, ito yung mga thing na dina-download natin na nagbibigay sa atin ng mga virus kapag na-download natin yung isang software or anything na galing sa internet. Ito yung mga possible na mga virus na makuha natin. So first is the computer virus, which is the rogue software program that attaches itself to other software programs or data files in order to be executed, or usually without user knowledge or permission. Most recent attacks have come from worms, which are independent computer programs that copy themselves from one computer to other computers over a network. Worms and viruses are often spread over the internet from files of the downloaded software, from files attached to email transmissions, or from compromised email messages, online ads, or instant messaging. And then viruses have also invaded computerized information systems from infected disk or infected machines. So nakukuha natin to whether we click some email messages, online ads, or yung mga nagpa-pop up sa screen natin whenever we surf the internet na medyo hindi siya, yun nga, hindi talaga siya safe kasi nga may mga viruses na pumapasok sa computers natin and then may mga nasisira tayong mga files. Next slide, please. Next is the Trojan horse, which is a software program that appears to be benign but then does something over than expected. The Trojan horse is not itself a virus because it does not replicate, but it is often a way for viruses or other malicious code to be introduced into a computer system. Next is the SQL injection, which attacks have become a major malware threat. SQL injection attacks take advantage of vulnerabilities in poorly coded web application software to introduce malicious program code into a company's systems and networks. Next slide, please. Many users find such spyware annoying, and some critics worry about its infringement on computers' users' privacy. Some forms of spyware are especially nefarious. Next is the keyloggers, which record every keystroke made on a computer to steal serial numbers for software, to launch internet attacks, to gain access to email accounts, to obtain passwords to protected computer systems, or to pick up information, personal information such as credit card numbers. Next, here are the hackers and computer crimes. So in these days, this is very timely since technology has been introduced to us, and according to studies, we the Filipinos are the number one users of social media. So we need to secure our computers and our systems in this cold hacker, which is an individual who intends to gain unauthorized access to a computer system. Within the hacking community, the term cracker is typically used to denote a hacker with criminal intent, although in the public press, the terms hacker and cracker are used interchangeably. So, as I've mentioned, very familiar naman na sa atin si hacker kasi ito yung mga tao or ayun nga, mga tao na sobrang galing hack ng mga system natin, kumukuha ng mga information na ginagamit nila to gain money. Example na lang natin yung mga pagkuha nila ng mga credit card numbers, ng mga bank accounts para i-transfer to unauthorized accounts. And then next, please. Here are the kinds of computer crimes na pwede natin ma-encounter. So first is the spoofing. It also may involve redirecting a web link to an address different from the intended one, with the site masquerading as the intended destination. Next is the sniffer. This is a type of eavesdropping program that monitors information traveling over a network. When used legitimately, sniffers help identify potential network trouble spots or criminal activity on networks. But when used for criminal purposes, they can be damaging and very difficult to detect. Next is the denial of service, which attacks hackers flood a network server or web server with many thousands of false communications or requests for services to crash the network. Next is the distributed denial of service or DDoS, which attack uses numerous computers to inundate and overwhelm the network from numerous launch points. Next is the identity theft, which is a crime in which an impostor obtains key pieces of personal information such as social security identification numbers, driver's license numbers, or credit card numbers to impersonate someone else. The information may be used to obtain credit, merchandise, or services in the name of the victim or to provide the theft with false credentials. So I have example for this one kasi since I've worked in a bank, meron kaming mga na-encounter na hindi naman talaga sila yung legitimate na nakapangalan sa ID. Then, ayun nga, since identity theft was done, yung mga IDs nila, legitimate yung mga info, pero hindi yung mismo tunay na may-ari yung nakapangalan. So may mga taong nag-open ng accounts para gamitin yung mga legitimate na ID na yun, pero hindi siya talaga galing sa legitimate source. So ginagamit yung mga bank accounts kapag naging successful yung transaction nila, ginagamit yung mga bank accounts para mag-launder ng money, galing sa mga um, illegal transactions. So next natin is phishing, which involves setting up fake websites or sending email messages that look like those of legitimate business to ask users for confidential personal data. So this one, very familiar naman na to sa atin. So example ko na lang din again sa mga online bankings natin. So since nga nauuso sobra yung paggamit natin ng mga online banking, madami tayong natatanggap na email na kunwari galing from the bank, parang sasabihin na lock yung account mo, and then i-click mo yon, tapos i-enter ka ng username then password mo. Then si hacker naman or yung site na yon, since illegal siya, makukuha niya lahat ng info mo, and then malilimas nila yung pera mo dun sa bank mo. So beware na lang tayo kasi bank will never ask for your just like the CVV and other information po. And then next natin is evil twins, which these are wireless networks that pretend to offer trustworthy Wi-Fi connection to the internet, such as those in airport lounges, hotels, or coffee shops. The bogus network looks identical to a legitimate public network. Fraudsters try to capture passwords or credit card numbers of unwitting users who log on the network. So beware po tayo sa paglalagin sa mga public Wi-Fi connections kasi ayun nga, since mentioned dito, pwedeng magamit yung mga info natin or yung mga accounts natin na nakalink sa phone natin para makuha yung mga important or yung mga funds ng yung mga bank accounts po natin. Next, please. So next is farming, which redirects users to a bogus web page, even when the individual types the correct web page address into his or her browser. So medyo misleading yung eto nga, si farming, since even if maglalagin naman talaga si client or si tayo sa legitimate na web page, nire-redirect pa rin nila tayo dun sa browser nila para ma-enter yung mga informations. Then next is click fraud. Occurs when an individual or computer program fraudulently clicks on an online ad without any intention of learning more about the advertiser or making a purchase. Next is the cyber warfare, which is a state-sponsored activity designed to cripple and defeat another state or nation by penetrating its computers or networks for the purposes of causing damage and disruption. Next is the social engineering, which malicious intruders seeking system access sometimes trick employees into revealing their passwords by pretending to be legitimate members of the company in need of information. Next. This one is the business value of security and control. Computer forensics is the scientific collection, examination, authentication, preservation, and analysis of data held on and retrieved from computer storage media in such a way that the information can be used as evidence in a court of law. So these are the following: recovering data from computers while preserving evidential integrity, securely storing and handling recovered electronic data, finding significant information in a large volume of electronic data, and presenting the information to a court law. Electronic evidence may reside on computer storage media in form of computer files and as ambient data, which are not visible to the average user. An awareness of computer forensics should be incorporated into a firm's contingency planning process. So we need to secure this one kasi nga ginagamit, sometimes we use the data into pag pag-present sa court, and we need to secure that para may and we need to have backup plans for that para in case man na mawala siya or hack yung system natin, meron pa rin tayong ipipresent. Next topics will be discussed by my partner, Mr. Kent Ian Conde. Thank you.
Go ahead po, sir.
Good morning, good morning, classmates. I can Ian Conde and I will continue the report of Ms. Jen Javier. Establishing a framework for security and control. Even with the best security tools, your information systems won't be reliable and secure unless you know how and where to deploy them. You need to know where your company is at risk and what controls you must have in place to protect your information system. You will also need to develop a security policy and plans for keeping your business running if your information systems aren't operational. The information system controls. The information system controls are both manual and automated and consist of both general controls and application controls. The general controls govern the design, security, and use of computer programs and the security of data files in general throughout the organization's information technology infrastructure. This is the type of general control. We have the software controls, hardware controls, computer operation controls, data security controls, then administrative controls. For the application controls, these are specific controls unique to each computerized application, such as payroll or edit processing. They include both automated and manual procedures that ensure that only authorized data are completely accurately processed by that application. For the application controls, it can be classified as the input controls, processing controls, then output controls. For the input controls, it checks the data for accuracy and completeness when they enter the system. There are specific input controls for input authorization, data conversation, data editing, and error handling. For the processing controls, it established that data are complete and accurate during updating. Then for the output controls, it ensures that the result of computer processing are accurate, complete, and properly distributed. For the risk assessment, it determines the level of risk to the firm if a specific activity or process is not properly controlled. Not all risks can be anticipated and measured, but most businesses will be able to acquire some understanding of the risk they face. The business managers working with the information systems specialized should try to determine the value of information, assets, points of vulnerability, the likely frequency of the problem, and the potential for damage. This is the example of the risk assessment. Next one is the security policy. It consists of the statements ranking information risk, identifying acceptable security goals, and identifying the mechanisms for achieving these goals. What are the firm's most important information assets? Who generates and controls this information in the firm? what existing security policies are in place to protect the information, and what level of risk management will be accepted for each of those assets. The security policy drives the policies for determining acceptable use of the firm's information resources in which members of the company have access to its information assets. This is the example for the security policy. Security profiling. Next one is the disaster recovery planning. It devises plans for the restoration of computing and communication services after they have been disrupted. Disaster recovery plans focus primarily on the technical issues involved in keeping systems up and running, such as which files to back up and maintain of backup computer systems of disaster recovery services. The business continuity planning. It focuses on how the company can restore businesses operations after the disaster strikes. The business continuity plans identifies critical business processes and determines action plans for handling mission critical functions if the systems go down. The role of auditing. An MIS audit examines the firm's overall security environment as well as controls governing individual information systems. The auditor should trace the flow of sample transactions through the system and perform tests using, if appropriate, automated audit software. The MIS audit may also examine data quality. The security audit review technologies, procedures, documentation, training, and personnel. A thorough audit will even simulate an attack or disasters to test the response of the technology, information systems, staff, and business employees. Then the audit list and ranks of all control weaknesses and legitimate and estimates the probability of their occurrences. Here is the sample of auditor list of the control weaknesses. Technologies and tools for protecting information resources. The businesses have any array of technologies for protecting their information resources. They include tools for managing users' identities, preventing unauthorized access to system and data, ensuring system availability, and ensuring the software quality. Identity management and authentication. Large and mid-sized companies have complex IT infrastructure and many different systems, which each with its own set of users. Identity management software automates the process of keeping track of all these users and their system privileges, assigning each users a unique digital identity for accessing each system. It also includes tools for authenticating users, protecting user identities, and controlling access to the system resources. Authentication. It refers to the ability to know what a person is who or she claims to be. The authentication is often established by using a password known only to the authorized users. An end user's password to log on to a computer system and may also use passwords for accessing specific system and files. However, users often forget their password or share them or choose poor passwords that are easy to guess, which compromise the security. The password system that are too rigorous hinders the employee productivity. When the employees must change the complex passwords frequently, they often take shortcuts, such as choosing passwords that are easy to guess or writing down their passwords at their workstation in plain view. The passwords can also be sniffed if transmitted over the network or stolen through social engineering. A token. The token is a physical device similar to identification card that is designed to prove the identity of the single users. The token are small gadgets that are typically fit on the key rings and display passcodes that change frequently. The smart card is the smart card is a device about the size of the credit card that contains chip formatted with access permission and other data. The smart cards are also used in electronic payment system. A reader device interprets the data on the smart card and allows or denies the access. Then the biometric authentication. Uh, it you This is a system that read and interpret individual human traits such as fingerprints, irises, and voices in order to grant or deny access. Biometric authentication is based on the measurement of a physical or behavioral trait that makes each individual unique. It compares a person's unique characteristics such as the fingerprint, face, or retinal image against a stored profile of these characteristics to determine whether there are any differences between the characteristics and the stored profile. Uh, some pieces, some personal computer or laptops have the biometric fingerprint reader for the fast yet secure access to files and networks. The new models of computers are starting to use biometric identification to the authentic users. Firewalls, intrusion detection system, and antivirus software. Without this protection against the malware and intruders, connecting to the internet would be very dangerous. Firewalls, intrusion detection system, and antivirus software have become essential business tools. Firewalls, it prevents the unauthorized users from accessing private networks. A firewall is a combination of hardware and software that controls the flow of incoming and outgoing network traffic. The intrusion detection system. Intrusion detection systems feature full-time monitoring tools placed at the most vulnerable points or hotspots of corporate network to detect and deter intruders continually. Then the antivirus software. This is the software that designed for the check of the computer system and drives for the presence of the computer viruses. This is a corporate example of the corporate firewall. The firewall is placed between the firm's private network and public internet or another distributed network to protect against unauthorized traffic. The Unified Threat Management System or UTM. It helps the businesses to reduce the cost and improve manageability. Security vendors have combined into a single appliance various security tools, including firewalls, virtual private networks, intrusion detection systems, and web content filtering anti-spam software. The security management products are called the Unified Threat Management System. Although initially aimed at the small and medium-sized businesses, the UTM products are available for all sizes of networks. The leading UTM vendors include the Crossbeam, Fortinet, and Checkpoint, and the network vendors such as Cisco Systems and Juniper Network provides some UTM capabilities in their equipment. Securing wireless network is a simple first step toward hackers is to assign a unique name to your network's SSID and instruct your router not to broadcast it. Encryption and public key infrastructure. The encryption is the process of transforming plain text or data into ciphertext that cannot be read by anyone other than the sender and intended receiver. Data are encrypted by using a secret numerical code called encryption key that transforms plain data into the ciphertext. The message must be decrypted by the receiver. Then public key encryption is a more secure form of encryption that uses two keys, one shared or public and one are totally private. This is the public key encryption. This is a public key encryption system that can be viewed as the series of public and private keys that lock the data they are transmitted and unlock the data when they are received. The sender locates the recipient's public key in the directory and uses it to encrypt the message. The message is sent in encrypted form over the internet or private network. When the encrypted messages arrives, the recipient uses his own private key to decrypt the data and read the message. Digital certificates. This is the data files used to establish the identity of users and electronic assets for protection of online transactions. A digital certificate system uses a trusted third party known as Certificate Authority or CA to validate the user's identity. There are many CAs in the United States and around the world, including IdenTrust and Australia's Keypost. The CA verifies the digital certificate user's identity offline. This information is put into a CA server which generates an encrypted digital certificate containing owner identification information and a copy of the owner's public key. The certificate authenticates that the public key belongs to the designated owner. Ensuring system availability. Fault-tolerant computer systems. It contains the redundant hardware, software, and power supply components that create an environment that provides continuous, uninterrupted service. Fault-tolerant computers use special softwares, routines, or self-checking logic built into their circuitry to detect hardware failures and automatically switch to a backup device. Parts of these computers can be removed and repaired without disruption to the computer system. Controlling network traffic. Controlling network traffic, deep packet inspection. It helps to solve the problem. The DPI examines the data files and sorts out low priority online materials while assigning higher priority to business critical files. Based on the priorities while assigning higher priority to business critical files. It establishes the network operators and decides whether the specific data packet can continue to its destination or should be blocked or delayed while more important traffic proceeds Using the DPI system from ALAT Communication, was able to cap the amount of file sharing traffic and assign it a much lower priority. Then security outsourcing. Many companies, especially in small businesses, lack the resources of expertise to provide a secure highway availability computing environment on their own. They can outsource many security functions to manage the security service providers that monitors the network activity and perform vulnerability testing and intrusion detection. It secures works, manage security solutions, and system and Semantic are the leading providers of MSSP services. Security issues for cloud computing and the mobile digital platform. Although the cloud computing and the emerging mobile digital platform have the potential to deliver powerful benefits, they pose new challenges to the system security and reliability. We know to describe that some of these challenges and how they should be addressed. The security in the cloud. When the processing takes place in the cloud, accountability and responsibility for protection of sensitive data still reside with the company owning that data. Understanding how the cloud computing providers organizes its services and manages the data is critical. The interactive session on the technology details some of the cloud security issues that should be addressed. Cloud users need to confirm that regardless of where their data are stored or transferred, they are protected at the level that meets their corporate requirements. They should stipulate that the cloud providers store and process data in a specific jurisdiction according to the privacy rules of those jurisdictions. The cloud client should find how the cloud provider segregates their corporate data from those of the other companies and ask for the proof that encryption mechanisms are sound. Securing mobile platforms. If mobile devices are performing many of the functions of the computers, they need to be secured like desktops, laptops against malware, theft, accidental loss, unauthorized access, and hacking attempts. Companies should make sure that their corporate security policy includes the mobile devices with the additional details on how the mobile devices should be supported, protected, and used. They will need tools to authorize all devices in use to maintain the accurate inventory records of all the mobile devices, users, and applications. Ensuring the software quality. Software metrics are objective assessments of the system in the form of quantified measurements. Ongoing use of metrics allows the information systems department and end users to jointly measure the performance of the system and identify the problems as they occur. Good testing begins before a software program is even written by using the walkthrough. A walkthrough is a review of the specification or design document by a small group of people carefully selected based on the skills needed for the particular objectives being tested. Once the developer starts writing software programs, coding walkthrough also can be used to review the program code. However, the code must be tested by the computer once. When errors are discovered, the source is found and eliminated through the process called debugging. That's all, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much. This topic actually is very important in our field, not only in business, but as I mentioned earlier, in our everyday life. So what I really want to address right now is what makes information system susceptible to misuse, mistake, and destruction. No? Digital data are susceptible to loss, theft, fraud, misuse, and hardware or software malfunctions. So sinabi ng ating first presenter earlier, internal corporate systems are more susceptible to outsider acts because the internet is intended to be an open system. So hackers have the ability to breach business networks and launch denial of service assaults, seriously disrupting the system. So by utilizing sniper applications to retrieve an address, hackers can simply access Wi-Fi networks and its resources. Systems and websites can be taken down by computer worms and viruses due to the distributed nature of cloud computing. It is challenging to monitor unwanted behavior or implement control from a distance because software defects may be tough to fix, and because software vulnerabilities might be used or might be used by hackers and malevolent software offers problems. So errors are frequently made by end users. Another is how valuable are security and control business. So businesses that rely on computers for their key business operations may experience a loss in revenue and productivity if inadequate security and control measures are not taken. Because information assets, such as private employee records, business strategies, or even trade secrets, become significantly less valuable if they are made public or if they put the company at risk of legal trouble. So let's say in health, we have regulations on HIPAA, HIPPAA, the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, and the Gramm-Leach Act compel business to follow strict guidelines for electronic records management and security, privacy, and control. So it means to say that businesses must focus more on security and electronic records management as a result of legal actions that call for electronic evidence and computer forensics. Now, what is a framework for corporate security and control? For their information system, businesses need to build a solid set of general and application controls. So when determining the most cost-effective set of controls, a risk assessment assesses information assets, identifies control points, and control weaknesses. Additionally, businesses needs to have plans for how to carry on with operations in the case of a catastrophe or other disruption. The identity management and permissible usage policies are part of the security policy. Organization can assess the efficacy of their information system security and controls with the aid of thorough and methodical management information system auditing. Another is, which technologies and tools are most crucial for protecting information resources? So, we have actually public and private network, as our presenter mentioned. When a private network is connected to the internet, firewalls prevent unauthorized users from entering the network. Systems for detecting intrusions keep an eye out for efforts to penetrate corporate systems and unusual network traffic on private networks. System users are verified via password, tokens, smart cards, and biometrics authentications. And right now, we are now catering the sinasabi natin na two-way, three-way with face recognition, or you are required to input a one-time password, and so on, no? And antivirus software scans computer for the presence of the viruses and worms and frequently gets rid of the destructive applications, whereas anti-spyware software fights obtrusive, no, and dangerous spyware programs. So electronic transmission across unsecured networks can be secured via encryption, which encrypts and scramble messages. So by verifying a user's identity, digital certificates added to the public key encryption increase the security of electronic transaction. Business, no, can utilize high availability computing environments or fault-tolerant computer systems to ensure that their information system are constantly accessible. Software quality and dependability are improved through the use of software metrics and thorough software testing. Okay, so I think that's it for this topic.